The Central Galactic Academy training arena smelled like recycled air and overconfidence. I'd been stationed there for 3 cycles now, monitoring the new batch of cadets from 17 different species, and honestly, most of them were about as impressive as a deflated hoverpod. But today was different. Today, we had a human. Her name was Kira Voss, and she looked underwhelming. Short by most galactic standards, standing maybe 5.5 feet tall, with dark hair pulled back in what humans call a ponytail. She wore the standard-issue gray training suit like everyone else, but somehow on her, it just looked ordinary. No impressive scales, no bioluminescent markings, no extra limbs, just 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face that seemed perpetually amused by something the rest of us couldn't quite grasp. "That's the Terran?" Grix, a Voltani cadet built like a mobile fortress, snorted through his twin breathing slits. His crimson scales rippled with barely contained laughter. "Command actually approved that for combat training?" I adjusted my observation tablet, making notes. As the training coordinator, I'd seen the humans file. Supposedly impressive reflexes, unusually high pain tolerance, adaptable problem-solving. All very nice on paper, but the Academy had accepted a Terran once before, 8 years ago, and he'd washed out in the first week. Couldn't handle the gravitational variations in the combat sims. These fragile little creatures just weren't built for real military operations. "Maybe she's here for medical training," called out Planara, a Scythian whose tentacles quivered with amusement. "I heard humans are good at patching things up, because they break so easily." The laughter spread through the assembled cadets, like a virus. 47 beings from across the galaxy. And apparently, they'd all found something to bond over. Mocking the human. Kira just stood there, hands clasped behind her back, that little smile never leaving her face, like she was in on a joke nobody else had heard yet. Commander Thex Cole strode into the arena, his 4 arms spread wide in what passed for an authoritative gesture among his people. The Krynothi were warriors, pure and simple, and Thex Cole had personally trained some of the finest soldiers in 3 sectors. His mandibles clicked together twice, the sound echoing off the reinforced walls. "Attention! Today's exercise is simple. Weapons Proficiency Examination. Each of you will demonstrate your capability with your species' preferred combat tool. The targeting range has been configured for varying difficulty levels. Bronze markings for basic competency, silver for advanced, gold for exceptional performance." He paused, his compound eyes sweeping across the group. "And for those who think they're truly special, platinum targets, moving, shielded, and positioned at maximum effective range." Grix cracked his knuckles, all 4 of them. "Finally, something fun." The cadets lined up and the EE demonstrations began. Grix went first, naturally, hefting a plasma cannon that probably weighed more than Kira's entire body. The weapon hummed to life, and he proceeded to obliterate 6 silver targets in rapid succession. Decent shooting. Nothing spectacular, but solid. Planara was next, using some kind of bioelectric projector that synced with her neural tentacles. She managed 7 silver targets and 1 gold. The gathered cadets hooted their approval. One by one, they went through their paces. A Dothran with a photon rifle, a Kelrix with throwing blades that curved mid-flight, a Janeth with what appeared to be a sonic disruptor. Some performed well, others not so much. But they all had one thing in common. They were all trying to outdo each other, peacocking and preening with each successful hit. Then came Kira's turn. She stepped up to the equipment rack and everyone sort of leaned in. What would the human choose? What exotic Terran weapon would she pull out? Their planet had been developing military technology for thousands of years, according to the historical databases. Surely they had something interesting. Kira reached past the plasma rifles, the laser carbines, the molecular disruptors. Her hand closed around something that made half the cadets actually gasp. A projectile weapon. Kinetic. Chemical propellant. The kind of thing you'd find in a museum on most civilized worlds. "Oh, you've got to be kidding," Grix muttered. "Is that a slug thrower?" It was. The humans called it a pistol. This particular model looked ancient even by Terran standards. Metal frame, wooden grip, mechanical sights. I checked my database. A 1911 pattern firearm. Over 400 years old in design. It fired small metal projectiles using controlled explosions. How primitive could you get? "The Terran chooses the kinetic pistol," Commander Thek's call announced, his tone carefully neutral. "Range configuration, 50 meters. You may begin when ready." Kira checked the weapon with practiced movements, removed the magazine, checked the chamber, reinserted the magazine, racked the slide. The mechanical sounds were almost comical in an arena filled with humming energy weapons and glowing tactical displays. She raised the pistol, both hands wrapped around the grip, and fired. Bang! The sound was absolutely barbaric. Not the clean whine of plasma or the sharp crack of lasers, just a loud, concussive explosion that seemed to offend the very air around it. A bronze target 200 meters away shattered into pieces. Wait, 200 meters? I rechecked my display. The bronze targets were positioned at 50 meters, silver at 100, gold at 150, platinum at 200 and beyond, up to 300 meters max. Kira had just shot a platinum target. "Lucky hit," Planara hissed. "Probably didn't even mean to aim that far." Kira said nothing, just adjusted her stance slightly. Bang! Another platinum target, 220 meters. Gone. Bang! 250 meters. Direct hit. Bang! 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 3 targets in rapid succession, all platinum level, all at maximum range, all dead center. The arena had gone completely silent, except for the ringing echoes of gunfire and the metallic tinkle of ejected brass casings hitting the floor. Kira lowered the weapon, engaged the safety, and turned back toward the group. That little smile was still there, maybe a bit wider now. "Acceptable," Commander Thek's call said, which coming from him was basically a standing ovation. However, marksmanship is only one component of combat readiness. Tomorrow we test close-quarters combat capabilities. Dismissed. The cadets filed out, but the whispering had already started. Nervous whispering. The kind that happens when someone's worldview gets kicked in the teeth. I caught up with Kira as she was returning the pistol to the armory. "That was impressive shooting." "Thanks," she said, her voice carrying that same amused undertone. "Though I should mention, this isn't even my preferred sidearm. Academy rules said I had to use something from the approved list. Apparently, my actual carry pistol was too primitive for modern combat standards." "What you used today wasn't primitive enough." "Oh, this is practically futuristic compared to my usual piece. This one has a polymer frame option and night sights," she grinned. "My carry gun is from 1873. I must have looked confused because she laughed. A short, sharp sound. "Don't worry about it. Let's just say humans have a weird relationship with our weapons. We tend to stick with what works." "But why projectiles?" I had to ask. "Energy weapons are more efficient, more powerful, easier to maintain." Kira shrugged. "Energy weapons are great until you run out of charge, or until someone's using a shield that deflects directed energy, or until you're in an environment where thermal bloom makes them unreliable, or until you need to shoot through hard cover. Or until… Point taken. Besides, she continued, there's something to be said for simplicity. This pistol has 8 moving parts. 8. No power cell, no plasma conduit, no magnetic accelerator coil. Just metal, springs, and chemistry. If it breaks, I can fix it with tools that humans have been using for centuries. Can you say that about a plasma rifle? She had a point, though I wasn't about to admit it. That night, I reviewed the day's footage, watched Kira's performance again. The smooth draw, the controlled breathing, the absolute mechanical precision of each shot. Other cadets had scored hits through fancy technology, predictive targeting computers, auto-tracking systems. Kira had just aimed and fired, like it was the simplest thing in the world. Maybe it was, for her. The next morning brought close-quarters combat trials. This was where most cadets expected the human to fail spectacularly. Physical combat required strength, speed, endurance, and reach. Kira was smaller than most species, present, appeared to have average strength at best, and had no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no armored hide. The betting pool among the cadets had gotten rather extensive, I'd heard. Most money was on Kira, lasting less than 30 seconds against any serious opponent. Commander Thexqual explained the rules. Paired combat, unarmed. First to 3 touches wins. Touches must be solid enough to trigger the contact sensors in your training suits. Any questions? Grix raised one massive hand. Do we have to go easy on her? You may use your full capabilities, Thexqual replied. The human requested it specifically. Oh, did she now? The first match was Kira versus a Telnori cadet named Brex. The Telnori were quick, covered in short spines that delivered minor shocks on contact. Brex outweighed Kira by at least 40 pounds and stood half a foot taller. They squared off in the practice ring. Brex bounced on his feet, hands up, ready to overwhelm the tiny human with superior speed and reach. Begin! Brex lunged forward, hands reaching to grab and overwhelm. Kira moved like water, flowing around his attack, her hand snapping out to slap his ribs as she passed. One touch. Brex spun, faster now, angry. He threw a combination of strikes, any one of which should have connected with the smaller opponent. Should have. Kira slipped each blow by margins so thin they looked accidental. Her hand found his shoulder. 2 touches. Brex roared and charged, trying to use his weight advantage to simply bulldoze her. Bad move. Kira sidestepped, hooked his ankle, and rode his momentum straight into the mat. Her palm slapped the back of his neck as he went down. 3 touches. Total elapsed time. 11 seconds. Lucky, someone muttered. Kira's next opponent was a Kreth, a species known for 4 independent arms and incredible reaction speed. The match lasted 9 seconds. Kira won. Then a Voltani, 7 seconds. Then a Scythian who tried to use all 6 tentacles at once. 14 seconds, but only because Kira seemed to be studying the tentacle attack pattern before finishing the match. After her 8th consecutive victory, each one faster than the last, nobody was talking about luck anymore. This is ridiculous, Grix finally bellowed. I'll fight her. Commander Thexqual's mandibles twitched. You wish to challenge Cadet Voss? Absolutely. This ends now. Kira just nodded, still wearing that infuriating little smile. They faced off. Grix was massive, easily twice Kira's weight, with natural armor plating and strength enough to bend steel bars. He was the top-ranked physical combat student in the entire class. I won't go easy on you, human, he growled. Good, Kira replied. I'd be insulted if you did. Begin. Grix came in like a freight train, using every ounce of his size and power. His strategy was simple: overpower, overwhelm, dominate. Kira ducked under his first swing, rolled past his second, and somehow ended up behind him. Her hand touched his spine. 1 point. Grix whirled, fast for his size, and managed to force Kira to actually back up for the first time in any of her matches. His reach advantage was real, and he was using it intelligently now, controlling space, cutting off angles. They circled each other. The arena had gone dead silent. Grix feinted left, struck right. Kira blocked, but the power of the blow sent her sliding backward. He pressed the advantage, throwing calculated strikes, using his armor to deflect her counterattacks. It was working, sort of. Then Kira changed tactics. Instead of evading, she moved in close, too close for Grix's long arms to be effective. She struck 3 times in rapid succession, targeting nerve clusters that I didn't even know existed on Voltani anatomy. Grix's left side went numb. His arm dropped. Kira's hand found his ribs. 2 touches. "How did you—" Grix managed. "Studied," Kira said simply, then swept his legs out from under him with a move that should not have worked on someone with his low center of gravity. But it did. 3 touches. The arena exploded with noise. Shock, disbelief, and, from a few cadets, grudging respect. Commander Thexcall held up one arm for silence. "Cadet Voss, that was educational. However, I must ask, how did you defeat opponents with superior physical attributes?" Kira shrugged. "Humans aren't the strongest species. We're not the fastest. We don't have natural weapons or armor. What we do have is endurance, adaptability, and about 2 million years of practice in killing things bigger and scarier than us. You all grew up with technology, with civilized combat sports, with rules and safety protocols. That's great. But humans? We grew up hunting animals that could tear us apart. We spent millennia learning exactly how to drop something big with nothing but rocks and sticks and sheer stubbornness. That kind of experience doesn't go away just because we invented spaceships." She looked around at the assembled cadets. "You're all used to fighting opponents who play fair, who follow the same combat doctrines you learned in training. I'm used to fighting things that want to eat me and don't care about fair." "So you studied our weaknesses?" Planara asked quietly. "I studied everything. Anatomy, nerve placement, balance points, sensory systems. You want to know the best way to disable a Scythian? Strike the nerve cluster exactly 14 centimeters from the base of the second tentacle. Voltani? They have a reflex point on their lower spine that temporarily paralyzes the left side. Telnori have incredible reflexes, but predictable attack patterns. Kreth have 4 arms, but simplified neural routing that makes them vulnerable to sensory overload." The silence was different now, not shocked, something more like scared. "The most dangerous thing humans learned," Kira continued, "wasn't how to be strong. It was how to be smart about violence, how to study our enemies, learn their weaknesses, and exploit them with absolute efficiency. We're persistent hunters, pursuit predators. Give us a target and enough time, and we will find a way to bring it down. That's not boasting. That's just biology." Commander Thexqual's mandibles clicked slowly, a sign of deep thought among his people. "I see. Cadet Voss, report to Advanced Combat Instructor Office after this session. The rest of you, continue training. Apparently, you all have much to learn." As the cadets dispersed, I noticed Grix approaching Kira. His scales had shifted to a muted purple, a sign of respect among Voltani. "That nerve strike," he said quietly. You could have used it first. Finished the match in seconds like the others. Why didn't you? Kira's expression softened slightly. Because you weren't being cruel. You were being honest, taking me seriously as an opponent. You deserved an honest fight back. The others were playing around, testing, not respecting the match. You actually tried. I appreciate that. Grix stared at her for a long moment, then extended one massive hand. I would be honored to train with you. To learn. She shook it. Mutual learning is the best kind. You have advantages I don't. I just have different experiences. We can both get better. I filed my report that evening. Human cadet exceeding all expectations. Recommend advancement to tactical training ahead of schedule. Physical capabilities within standard range, but combat intelligence and strategic thinking exceptional. Advise other cadets to learn from human approach to problem solving. Then I added a personal note. These humans might be small, and they might look fragile, and their technology might seem primitive, but they've been surviving on a death world for millions of years, and they learned every possible lesson about violence that planet could teach. They're not strong because of what they are. They're dangerous because of what they've overcome. The Academy was about to get very interesting, and something told me that tomorrow's tactical simulation exercise was going to shock quite a few more people. That little human with her ancient pistol and her patient smile had just proven something that should have been obvious to anyone paying attention. Never, ever underestimate a species that had to fight for every single day of its existence. The real lesson hadn't even started yet. The tactical simulation chamber was a masterpiece of military engineering. Holographic terrain, adjustable gravity, environmental hazards, and AI-controlled opposition forces that could adapt to whatever the cadets threw at them. It was designed to test everything: strategic thinking, teamwork, resource management, and the ability to handle absolute chaos without falling apart. Today's scenario was a classic: hostage rescue in hostile territory. 4-person teams, mixed species assignments, 30 minutes to plan and execute. Commander Thexqual had deliberately put together the most unlikely combinations possible, forcing cadets who'd never worked together to figure out cooperation under pressure. Kira got stuck with Grix, Planara, and a Harathi named Ven, who communicated mostly through color shifts in his skin. Not exactly a dream team, especially since they'd all spent the previous day getting systematically dismantled by the human in combat trials. All right, Grix rumbled as their team huddled in the prep area. I'll take point. My armor can handle initial contact. Planara, you provide support fire. Ven, reconnaissance. Human, you, stay back and try not to get killed? Kira offered helpfully. I was going to say, provide covering fire. But sure, that works too. Kira pulled up the mission briefing on her tablet. 6 hostages held in a fortified compound. Unknown number of enemy combatants. Limited ammunition, no resupply. Timer starts the moment we breach the perimeter. She tapped the screen thoughtfully. Standard approach would be frontal assault, overwhelming firepower, quick extraction. Exactly, Grix agreed. We hit hard, grab the hostages, get out before they can organize a proper defense. That's what the simulation expects us to do. Everyone looked at her. So we do something else, Kira continued. The AI adapts to our tactics, right? Gets smarter the longer we fight conventionally. But if we do something completely unexpected, what are you suggesting? Planara's tentacles curled skeptically. I'm suggesting we don't breach the perimeter at all. Not at first. Ven's skin flashed through several rapid color changes. I'd reviewed enough Harathi communication to know he was asking if she'd lost her mind. Hear me out, Kira said. pulling up a 3D map of the compound. They're expecting an assault. They've got defensive positions here, here, and here. Overlapping fields of fire, kill zones. If we charge in, even with Grix's armor, we're walking into a meat grinder. The AI will funnel us exactly where it wants us. So, what's the alternative? Grix asked. We make them come to us. Humans have this saying, why fight on your enemy's terms when you can make them fight on yours? She started sketching on the tactical display. There's an environmental control station here, 200 meters from the compound. Then, your people can handle extreme temperature variations, right? More color shifts. Affirmative. Planara, your bioelectric attacks work better in humid conditions, correct? Yes, but I don't see... And Grix, your armor has built-in thermal regulators. Standard equipment, but so what? Kira's smile turned slightly predatory. So we turn their fortress into a swamp, crank the humidity to maximum, drop the temperature to just above freezing, create fog thick enough to choke on. Then we wait exactly 12 minutes for the environmental chaos to peak. The AI will panic, think we're staging for a stealth approach. It'll send scouts to investigate. We pick them off quietly, take their gear, learn their patrol patterns. That's actually not terrible, Grix admitted slowly. Then, once we've thinned their numbers and they're cold, confused, and half-blind from the fog, we don't go through the perimeter. We go under it. Every fortress has drainage systems, maintenance tunnels. The simulation has to include them for realism, but most teams never think to use them because they're too busy playing hero. Planara's tentacles had stopped twitching. You've done this before. Similar situations, different context. Humans fought each other for thousands of years before we met the rest of you. We got very, very good at asymmetric warfare, at using the environment as a weapon, at making our enemies defeat themselves. Ven's skin shifted to a solid, determined orange. He was in. Fine, Grix said. We try it your way. But if this goes sideways, then we default to your plan and smash our way through, Kira finished. Fair enough. The simulation began. While other teams charged directly at their objectives, guns blazing and shields raised, Kira's team moved laterally. Ven infiltrated the environmental controls, his camouflage skin making him nearly invisible. Within 3 minutes, the entire compound area was engulfed in freezing fog. The AI-controlled defenders reacted exactly as Kira predicted. Confusion first, then aggressive scouting parties sent to locate the attackers who were obviously staging for an assault. Grix took out the first scout with a silent takedown that would have made a ghost jealous. Planara short-circuited the second scout's weapon systems before he even knew she was there. Ven simply materialized behind the third, delivering a nerve strike that dropped the target instantly. They stripped the scouts of gear and information, learning the internal layout and defense patterns without firing a single shot. Drainage access point located, Kira whispered into the comm. 17 meters east of primary entrance. Guard presence, 0. They're all focused on the walls. The team slipped underground, moving through maintenance tunnels that were cramped, dark, and absolutely ignored by the fortress defenders. 12 minutes into the simulation, they emerged inside the compound, behind enemy lines, completely undetected. The hostages were being held in a central building, guarded by 6 defenders. In a normal assault, getting to them would have required fighting through 3 defensive layers and taking significant casualties. Kira's approach was different. Ven, you're up. Color pattern, emergency evacuation signal. The guards should recognize it from their training protocols. Ven's skin erupted in a specific pattern of rapid flashes. Outside the building, alarms started wailing. The AI interpreted the signal as a legitimate emergency, and 4 of the 6 guards rushed out to investigate. That left 2. Grix kicked the door in, his armor absorbing the surprised guards' initial shots. Planara was through the opening immediately, her bioelectric discharge dropping both targets before they could adjust their aim. The hostages were secured in 43 seconds. Extraction was almost boring in its efficiency. Back through the tunnels, out past the perimeter that was still focused on external threats, and across the evac line with 22 minutes remaining on the clock. Commander Thex Qual was waiting at the debrief station, his mandibles working in that way that suggested he was processing something deeply confusing. Cadet Voss, your team completed the objective in 7 minutes and 16 seconds. That is the fastest completion time in the history of this simulation. 0 casualties, 0 injuries. Ammunition expenditure, minimal. Can you explain your tactical approach? We didn't fight their fight, Kira said simply. The simulation expected us to be heroes, to charge in, trade shots, win through superior firepower or courage or whatever. Instead, we changed the battlefield, gathered intelligence, avoided direct conflict wherever possible, and struck only when we had overwhelming advantage. It's not glorious, but it works. That is not standard galactic military doctrine. No, sir, it's not. But humans didn't develop standard doctrine until recently. We spent most of our history outnumbered, outgunned, or both. We learned to be clever instead of fair, to strike from unexpected angles, to win through deception, misdirection, and environmental manipulation when we couldn't win through direct force. Grix spoke up, surprising everyone. Commander, if I may, the humans' approach saved our lives 3 times today. Times when my training would have had me doing something brave and stupid that would have gotten us all killed. She thinks differently. Not better or worse, just different. And in combat, different can be the edge that keeps you breathing. Planara nodded, her tentacles forming a gesture of agreement. I've trained for 6 years in standard tactics. Kira threw out half the rules and somehow everything worked better. It's unsettling, but effective. Ven's skin flashed a pattern that translated roughly to, "Weird human is scary smart, and I wish to learn more." Over the next 3 days, something remarkable happened. The cadets stopped treating Kira like a curiosity or a joke, and started treating her like a resource. They asked questions. Lots of questions. Why do humans prefer kinetic weapons when energy weapons have higher damage output? Kira, cleaning her ancient pistol in the common area. Because kinetic projectiles don't care about energy shields, electromagnetic interference, or power cell availability. A bullet works in vacuum, underwater, during solar flares, and in the middle of an EMP blast. It's reliable. Reliability beats power when your life depends on it. How did you know about the Voltani nerve cluster? Kira, reviewing anatomical databases. I read everything. Every species file the Academy has. Humans are curiosity-driven to the point of obsession. We see a problem, we study it until we understand it. Then we study it more until we can exploit it. It's kind of our whole thing. Do humans really come from a death world? Kira, laughing. Earth isn't that bad. Sure, we have predators that can smell blood from miles away, weather patterns that can level cities, microscopic organisms that can kill you in dozens of creative ways, plants that are actively poisonous, and enough natural disasters to keep life interesting. But you know what? We're still here. We adapted. We learned. We turned every threat into a lesson about survival. The real turning point came during the final examination. a week-long field exercise on an actual hostile planet. 20 teams, wilderness survival, live fire exercises, and genuine danger. Not simulated. Real. Kira's team now consisted of cadets who'd specifically requested to work with her. Grix, obviously, Planara, Ven, plus 2 additions. A Kelrix named Tora, who specialized in reconnaissance, and a Janeth named Bex, whose sonic weapons made her terrifying at close range. They were dropped in a jungle environment that made Earth's Amazon look friendly. Gravity 0.8 standard. Atmosphere breathable, but humid enough to drown in. Native predators that considered cadets to be a delightful new addition to the local menu. Most teams set up fortified camps, posted guards, and basically waited for the week to pass while completing the minimum required objectives. Kira's team built traps. Lots of traps. Humans are persistent hunters, she explained, while showing them how to construct a deadfall trap from local materials. But we're also lazy when we can be. Why chase prey for hours when you can make the prey come to you? Or better yet, make the environment do the hunting for you? Within 2 days, they'd established a perimeter defense system that would have made a military engineer weep with joy. Tripwires connected to alarm systems, pit traps disguised with natural foliage, snares that could catch anything from small scavengers to the local equivalent of bears. Not to kill, just to warn and deter. "We're not here to wipe out the local ecosystem," Kira said, when Bex questioned the non-lethal approach. "We're here to coexist with it for a week. Make enough noise, present enough of a challenge, and most predators will decide we're not worth the effort." Earth's predators taught us that. Humans aren't top of the food chain because we're the biggest or strongest. We're top because we're the most annoying prey in the history of evolution. The strategy worked beautifully. While other teams fought off nightly attacks and dealt with injuries, Kira's group slept soundly behind their defensive network. They completed every required objective with time to spare, and even helped extract another team that got pinned down by a pack of local predators. On the final day, Commander Thex Qual visited their camp personally. He examined their setup, noting the sophisticated simplicity of their defenses, the efficient use of local resources, the complete lack of technology in favor of practical mechanical solutions. "Cadet Voss, this is exceptional work. But I must ask, is this approach teachable? Can you train others in human tactical philosophy?" Kira considered the question seriously. Some of it, sure. The mechanics, the techniques, the specific tactics. Those can be taught. But the mindset? That's harder. Humans learned to think this way over millions of years of being prey that decided to become predators. We learned to turn weakness into strength, to use intelligence to overcome physical limitations, to be creative with violence because we had to be. You can teach the skills, but the instinct, that comes from experience, from failing, adapting, and trying again. "Then you will fail," Thexcall said simply. Everyone froze. "You will fail," he repeated, "and you will learn. And you will teach others to learn from failure. This is the human gift, I think. Not that you win easily, but that you refuse to accept defeat as permanent. Every loss becomes data. Every mistake becomes a lesson. This is why you will make an exceptional officer, Cadet Voss. Not because you are perfect, but because you understand that perfection is impossible, and success comes from improving constantly." He turned to address the entire team. "All of you have learned something valuable this week. You learned that strength comes in many forms, that different is not inferior, that questioning doctrine is not weakness, but wisdom. The galaxy needs soldiers who think, who adapt, who understand that the best warrior is not the one who never loses, but the one who learns from every battle. 6 months later, graduation day arrived. Kira Voss stood in formation with her class, wearing the uniform of a junior tactical officer. Her pistol, that ancient 1911 that had caused so much amusement on day one, was holstered at her side. Officially sanctioned now. Approved as a secondary weapon system for human personnel who preferred kinetic options. The laughter was long gone, replaced by respect, by curiosity, by a genuine desire to understand the human approach to warfare and survival. Grix, now her officially designated training partner, stood beside her at attention. Planara was 2 rows back, having earned top marks in adaptive tactics. Ven had requested assignment to human contact divisions, fascinated by Terran combat philosophy. As Commander Thexqual presented the graduates with their commissions, he paused when he reached Kira. The Central Galactic Academy has been training warriors for 400 years, he said, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. We have refined our methods, perfected our doctrine, created soldiers of exceptional quality. And then we accepted our first successful human cadet, and she taught us something we had forgotten. That doctrine is a beginning, not an ending. That rules exist to be questioned. That the most dangerous opponent is not the strongest or fastest, but the one who refuses to fight the battle you expect. He handed Kira her commission chip. Officer Voss, you came here to learn. Instead, you taught. Thank you for reminding us why we train. Not to create soldiers who follow orders perfectly, but to create leaders who know when to break the rules intelligently. Later, at the graduation celebration, I found Kira standing alone on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. Congratulations, I said. You've certainly made an impression. She smiled that familiar smile. I just did what humans do. Adapted, learned, survived. You did more than survive. You changed how an entire institution thinks about combat training. Maybe, but the real lesson isn't about me. It's about them. She gestured back toward the celebration, where cadets from a dozen species were swapping stories and techniques, learning from each other in ways that crossed traditional doctrinal boundaries. They learned that different perspectives have value, that there's no single right way to approach a problem. That's not a human lesson, that's a universal one. I just happened to demonstrate it in a context they could understand. Violence? Understanding. Violence was just the language we used to communicate it. She turned to face me fully. You know what the scariest thing about humans is? It's not that we're good at fighting. Lots of species are good at that. It's that we're good at teaching, at spreading ideas, at adapting other people's strengths and incorporating them into our own approach. We're not apex predators because we're individually dangerous. We're apex because we're collectively unstoppable. We share knowledge. We build on each other's successes. We turn every interaction into a learning opportunity. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Humans just joined the galactic community. We're going to learn everything we can from everyone we meet. And we're going to teach everything we know to anyone willing to listen. In 50 years, 100 years, the galaxy won't remember that humans were small or weak or primitive. They'll remember that we changed how people think about problems, how they approach challenges, how they define success. She picked up her drink, that ancient pistol visible at her hip, a reminder of where humanity had come from, and perhaps a hint of where they were going. So yeah, they laughed at the human. Past tense. Now they're learning from her. And honestly, that's a much better outcome for everyone. I watched her rejoin the celebration, immediately surrounded by cadets eager to hear more human stories, more tactical insights, more of that strange Terran perspective that turned conventional wisdom sideways and somehow made everything work better. The Academy would never be quite the same. And judging by the enthusiasm in that room, the galaxy was about to get a lot more interesting. Somewhere out there, other humans were graduating from other academies, joining other services, spreading that same philosophy of adaptation and creative problem-solving. The galaxy had spent millennia developing its military doctrines, its combat philosophies, its understanding of warfare. Humanity had just shown up and politely suggested there might be other ways to think about things. The scary part? They were right, and they were just getting started.